When people think of tofu, I think they often picture squares or rectangles that go inside of like pad thai. And for me, that's just boring. So I'm going to show you how you can use tofu in a way that adds more of the texture and the shape of something that you're missing, like a chicken. I pressed this tofu for about a half an hour. If you don't have a tofu press, that's fine. All you have to do is wrap it in a kitchen towel and then put some heavy books on top of it, and it'll do basically the same thing. Also, this recipe doesn't live or die by the fact that the tofu's been pressed, so if you can't do it, that's totally fine. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rip up this tofu just into little pieces, because this is what's gonna give it that texture that's a little bit more like chicken. And while I'm doing this, I'm gonna preheat my air fryer to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And by the time this is ready, the air fryer will be up to temperature. So you don't have to be pretty here. You're just trying to get some pieces that are nice and texturized and have some bumps on them. So try not to make them too small, because then they're gonna get really, really crispy, but that's okay too. There's no rhyme or reason for how you make the shapes. Just try to make them bite-sized and all roughly the same shape so that they cook evenly inside of the air fryer. If you don't have an air fryer, you could do this inside of a convection oven. It's just not gonna give the same texture on the outside, but it'll still be pretty great. Here I'm using extra firm tofu, but you could also get away with using firm. You don't want to use medium tofu here or silken because it'll just turn to mush. No good. You know what you can do with medium tofu? Throw it in the f***ing garbage because it's useless. So now that this is in the pieces we want, what we're gonna do is we're gonna toss it with a teaspoon of cornstarch and poultry seasoning. And we're gonna toss that around with our hands until everything is coated. The cornstarch is what's gonna add to that crispy element, and the poultry seasoning is there for flavor. You can also do this without the poultry seasoning if you want, depending on what you're going for in terms of your flavor, but this adds that little chicken flavor we're looking for. So that is more or less nicely coated. So now all we're gonna do is pull out our air fryer basket, toss it inside, and then we're gonna let that cook for up to about 10 minutes maximum. We're gonna take this out and check it every 3 to 4 minutes to see if it's the right texture we want. Let's check it. Okay, this is getting close. There's a differing opinion in my household. My wife would take this out about now, and she would be wrong. It needs a little bit longer. You want it to almost be too dried out, because what's gonna happen is you're gonna put this inside of something else, and the liquid from that will rehydrate it a bit. But the longer you leave it, the more of that kind of chicken-like texture you're gonna get. So we're gonna put this in for at least another 2 or 3 minutes. Yes! That's the texture! It feels overcooked. That's exactly what I'm looking for. You can see when I rip it apart, oh, the steam. That there's little lines in it because we pressed it, and it looks like chicken when you rip it inside. It's not stringy the way chicken is, but it's pretty close in texture there. And because there's this little skin on it, you wouldn't want to eat it like this because it's a bit too dry. But the trick is, if you mix this into any kind of a dish that's got some kind of a liquid, it doesn't need much, it'll rehydrate for you. So just to give you an example here, I'm just gonna put a couple pieces in here and just throw in just a little bit of vegetable broth and just mix that around. So this is what you would do if you're adding it into like a stir fry or a pasta dish. Whatever the liquid is, it would just bring that moisture back in, but still keep that nice texture that you want. Yes. To be clear, what we're looking for here is texture. The flavor you're gonna add by the rest of your dish. But this is a very different way that you can do tofu that has a meatier texture than usual. Smash this in your face!